Hello, so craft lovers, and welcome back once again to the part 2 of my first video on how to make a kiddies bumper jacket. I hope you watched the first one because trying to understand the second one will be a lot harder. So make sure you stay tuned as we do this together, okay? Welcome once again. So last time on the part 1 of this video, we stopped at fixing the ribbon on the neckline. Now we will be fixing the lining part, that's the inner part. Now remember that your lining could also be another very lovely fabric, because this particular method I'm teaching is how to make a reversible bumper jacket. So imagine if this lining was to be a very fancy fabric, or maybe another pattern of Ankara fabric, or any other patterned cotton fabric. So looking at it, you can see how beautiful it looks, except the pocket may be an exception if you were to do it as a reversible bumper jacket, or go through the stress of also adding a pocket inside the bumper jacket so as to be able to wear it on the reversible parts. So I'm done here fixing the lining on the neckline, because the first thing you want to do is to actually fix the neckline first of the lining, both for the ribbon neckline as well as the lining. So here I'm marking out my pockets. I'm just taking a marking on my pocket. I'm using 12 inches. It depends on what you want to use, but I want this pocket to be a little bit high for her. And I'm also trying to mark out the 1-inch allowance I left earlier on, just so as to be able to mark out or determine how wide the pocket should look. That is the opening, the pocket opening. So this is my the leftover pieces I had, and I'm trying to repeat the markings because you want to determine the actual measurement before repeating that actual measurement on the pieces. So this is what I'm doing, and I hope you understand the video, because the video is actually quite explanatory. So I have gone ahead to cut out the pocket side, and this pocket is going to have a little bit of allowance. I always like to leave allowances for everything I'm doing. It's better to trim off the excess than to cut it short. So after cutting, I realized I had to go back inwards, so I ended up taking 4 inches pocket wideness, that's the opening, and 5 inches for the depth. 4 inches on the upper part, and that's on the horizontal axis, and 5 inches on the vertical axis. So I'm going ahead to rule a straight line and then trimming off that particular excess as well. So I'm going ahead to cut off that excess which was marked earlier on, and then here you want to place the pocket exactly on your front bodice. Remember, the front bodice is demarcated because of the zipper allowance, so you would have to place both pockets accordingly, making sure that the opening is at the side seam area and the other parts on the zip line. So I will be using a ribbon fabric to seal up the edges of the pocket opening. You can seal up the edges using a bias strip if you don't want anything fanciful, but I really wanted this particular pocket to have a ribbon as a sealed up on the pocket edges, that's on the opening side of the pocket. So I will be placing this ribbon in this form. You would have to sew first and then flip it to the other side and top stitch. I'll be showing you that very soon. Very soon. So here I had to remeasure because I didn't want the ribbon to be too wide, and I ended up using about 2 inches for this, so that when you fold you'll be having 1 inches. And this is what I meant. You would have to sew first. After sewing, you kind of flip it to the other side. Can you see that? You flip it to the other side and then top stitch. Reason for top stitching is to avoid the edges from showing while the client or whoever you'll be sewing for will be placing their hands inside the pocket. So I did that as well to the second part of the pocket, and I'm back to the work table to iron out because the ribbon fabric has a stretchy form, and while sewing you may have an encounter with it trying to stretch or fold somehow. So ironing helps to really put them together. So now it's time to sew the pocket side to your upper bodice, and first of all you need to pin. You have to pin down on the line where you marked. Place your pocket somehow upwards and then sew and flip it back down. I don't know if you understand this, but this is just an easy tactics to do it. You sew and then you flip. You sew and then flip. Did you see that now? You sew and flip and then go back to your sewing machine and top stitch on that part, because you don't want a situation whereby your pocket will be hanging up. So I went ahead to top stitch and I have done that already. The next thing you want to do is to attach your sleeves. Remember, the zipper and the waistband are the last things to do. The very first things you want to consider doing is fixing your ribbon to your neckline. Now, some other pictures I've seen does not have ribbon as the collar. What they always tend to sew there is to use the same fabric as a collar form. So, but for this particular tutorial, I just want it to be a complete method so that you could see how those bumper jackets are being made. So I've gone ahead to sew my sleeves. As you saw earlier, I've gone ahead to sew my sleeves on the Ankara. You have to sew your sleeve on your main fabric and then also repeat the same format on your linings. So the whole 4 sleeves, you would have to fix them all up and make sure that the edges of the lining does not show. You have to sew it in such a way that the edges are inside and not outside. Then the next thing you want to do is to fix in your wristband. After fixing the sleeve, you want to fix your wristband. Now this wristband is a bit technical, but if you watch very closely, you'd see that I'm sewing the Ankara first, front to front, and then you would also sew the lining front to front. Sorry I didn't show that part, but this is just how it looks. If you look at the video very well, you will see that the same format I did on the Ankara is what I did on the lining. It's a simple technique if you watch very closely, in the sense that every edge, all edges are sewn inwards. There's nothing that's going to show outside. By the time you see the end of the video, you would realize that everything was locked in. So I'm going ahead to sew all sleeves together. This is the reason why the ribbon was being placed that way. So I've gone ahead to do that. I have sewn the sides, all sides, both on the body side and the sleeve side. You have to put everything together and sew, and then take your hands in and pull the sleeve out. I'm repeating this again. Take your hands in after you have sewn all sides, and then pull the sleeve out. By pulling the sleeve out, you would now realize the particular way I was trying to do it. So this is the reversible side. You can see that there are no edges showing at all, both on the sleeve and on the main bodice. No edges showing. So this is how it looks like, both the armhole, everything. I will be posting a video very soon on how to cut out a sleeve, so you may want to also watch that video if you don't know how to cut out a sleeve, because I kind of think that the bumper jacket tutorial is actually an advanced technique. Aside from the reversible method and all, there are certain things that you should have known before you could be able to watch some kind of videos, especially this bumper jacket. However, you can decide to weave the armhole area. That is, if you're having difficulties on how to apply the reversible method. So here you would fix in the waistband. That will be the next thing to do, because you can't fix the waistband if you have not fixed your sleeve. So the waistband will be the next thing, using the ribbon fabric or the rib knit fabric. So you have to place the Ankara or your main cotton fabric to your ribbon. Sew it front to front, half inch, just half inch. Now you can decide to use 4 inches on fold or 2.5 inches on fold for your waistband. Same as the wristband. The wristband, you can decide to use a 4 inches, but one thing about the rib knit fabric is that it doesn't come in yards, so you don't really need to cut off so much excess for it. Like this waistband I'm trying to cut right now, I did not trim off anything. The only thing I trimmed off is the excess, because when using a stretchy fabric or an elastic band, because the rib knit almost looks like an elastic band really, you need to take the round waist or the round part of that measurement, divide it by 2. Yes, you divide it by 2 plus an extra 4 or 5 inches, which also includes your seam allowance. Then while sewing, you stretch out. As you can see, it's really stretchy. So by the time you stretch it out, you will be able to get the waistband to be very stretchy. So after you've done the main cotton fabric, flip the lining backwards in order for you to hold the second edge of your rib knit waistband, and then you want to go to your sewing machine and also sew on it. Now I'm opening up this bumper jacket so that you can see what we've done so far, and this is how it looks like. I'm so sorry I didn't show the fancy Ankara piece at the edge close to the zip part, but it's quite easy. It's very, very easy. If you want to try that out, you can do that as well. It's not compulsory. It's just a way of making the bumper jacket look more creative. So here The next and the very last thing to do is to fix in your zip. Now this zip part is quite technical. I must say, if you don't know anything in sewing, you have no idea in sewing, it may be a bit difficult for you to go ahead on this particular um, tutorial. But if you have an idea, I think you should try it out. There's nothing that can be tried out. Okay, so this is me fixing the zip, and you see the way I'm fixing it. You have to first of all pin down the zip upside down to your lining piece or the inner fabric, and then turn over. Go ahead and use the main cotton fabric. Place it together. This time around, you won't be placing it separately the way it was done the first time. You place it together, and then my zip has an excess. It has an excess, so you have to place it together and then sew straight down. So I did that for the zip. As you can see here, you can see that the edges of the zip is not showing at all on that side. So you go ahead and fix the second part same way you did to the first, and you would have this at the end of the day. This is what you're going to have, and you can see the bumper jacket is ready to go. Fixing the second part of your zip is a bit technical because you would need to open up one of the side seam of your lining of the inner fabric. You have to open it up, and then that's the opening you would use to turn over the entire bumper jacket. Because at the end of the day, you may not see any space to open up the bumper jacket after you fix the second zip. In other words, after you fix the first one, open up one of the sides of the lining or the inner fabric, because already you know that you had already sewn all sides. So that's the only way you'll be able to turn over the second part of the zip. So you can see our bumper jacket is good to go. I'm really loving this tutorial, and I just hope that you understood every bit of this. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment on this bumper jacket.